The Kinect, everybody familiar with that? That's the thing that will gauge, it's from Microsoft to go with the Xbox 360, that will actually measure your body motion and interpret that for your games. There is really, I think it was a Bloomberg Business, is that the magazine? Yeah. Real interesting article on that. About how it took people about 2 weeks to hack into the code because Microsoft did not want to make the development code for the Kinect open and available. And there are some really interesting applications being written for it without Microsoft's consent. The most interesting one was that was it the vacuum, the robot vacuum is a Zumba? Is that right? Somebody programmed so you put the Kinect on top of the Zumba and you control Roomba? It ain't the Zumba then. Okay, the Roomba. Well, apparently the dance has something to do with it because what this guy did was he programmed through the Kinect, he could gesture to his vacuum cleaner, which will then go to the appropriate thing. Okay? Now, think about that for a second. This is, no question about it, it's a consumer product. Consumer interface, consumer all that kind of thing. And yet, immediately, the possibilities are endless. Now, if you get bugged by a fly while you're trying to direct your vacuum cleaner, sorry to hear about your cat. I got this a lot back when I used to be dating. Last study I saw was, I think by 2012, they were saying $5 gasoline. Okay, and it had nothing to do with our economy. It has to do with worldwide demand. So it's one of those things where I think that you may have opinions about whether or not it'll reach that or whatever, but it's going up. You put that in with the walls falling down in terms of communication costs and quality of communication and all that kind of stuff. We're just pricing out for one of our customers some fiber connections, 20 meg up, 20 meg down, about $1,500 a month. Okay, ridiculous, ridiculous. So the barrier of person A and person B, or organization A and B, working together in a meaningful way over very long distances, the barriers are going away. So if the company can afford to have smaller offices, if the company can afford to have very quick turnaround time in terms of questions or issues and all that, they're going to succeed. We had to do a troubleshooting. One of our clients has some business folks go out of China regularly, and we had to do some maintenance on one of the machines, one of the desktops that was out there in China. Our remote support capability was almost exactly the same as if they were local. Okay? We had a guy sitting there at essentially a hotel, where they have an apartment, over in mainland China, and he was connecting using Skype for the phone and logged me in remote for us to control the PC. The quality was excellent, and so was the give and take on the PC side. And Skype certainly, logged me in remote a little bit less so, but those are not highfalutin, only geeks know how to use it tools. So the more of the collaboration type tools, such as Office Communicator, or Google's equivalent even, Live Meeting, or no, they're calling it Links. Now they're combining Live Meeting and Office Communicator, calling it Links. Anyway, the more these tools become accessible and easy to use and easy to manage and maintain, remote work is going to do nothing but increase. Okay, so we have, with this motley crew over here, these are the Simplex-IT, most of the staff. Yeah. Anyway, so we have it when these guys are on site or working from home or whatever, we can have Communicator up and be chatting anytime we need to. So we're able to be much more efficient. We don't have to go on site to actually work with our customers. Overseas relationships. It is a two-way street. It is a two-way street. You can provide support to people who work overseas just as well as it comes the other way. Obviously not on the same skill level set. We have to make sure that we're providing a higher level skill, because otherwise the price isn't going to be there. but we can do that now. Okay? And we have a lot of, I would say a lot, probably about 4 or 5, 6, 7, whatever, a fair number of manufacturing companies that we provide the IT support to. And the ones that didn't have really bone-crushing issues over the Great Recession or whatever we're calling it, every one of those has relationships overseas. Okay? And in most cases I can think of them selling that way. Okay? So, communication, communication, communication. Look for that. And if your organization hasn't reviewed your connectivity options, whether it be voice or phone, in the past 4 years or so, do it. The infrastructure costs have dropped significantly. You know, these guys, the company I was mentioning before, they were looking at, they had 2 T1 lines for voice and data that they were paying about $1,200 a month for. Now they're going to go to about $1,400-$1,500 a month and get 20 meg up and down. As opposed to before it was 1.4 meg. Upish and downish. Okay, now I'm biting the hand that feeds us. Microsoft matters. It just matters less. And here's the thing, I think John and I were talking about this yesterday. Microsoft still has the monopoly, lowercase m, as far as desktops, server applications, server software, desktop software, all that kind of good stuff. Still has it. It just matters less. Okay? Because there are more and more alternatives that are in markets that Microsoft doesn't have. You know, everybody knows who has the largest, what is the second largest company in terms of net worth right now? Starts with an A. Apple. Okay, Apple just passed Microsoft last year as far as their overall worth, and it ain't because of the Macs. It's because of the I fill in the blank D. I mean, that's where their value is, and Microsoft has absolutely nothing. Okay, they have Zune. Seriously, who thought of that one? Anyway, they have the Zune. Okay, and they've got the Xbox. Well, that's fine. Apple isn't really in the gaming console business. But other than that, Apple has come by hitting Microsoft where they're not. Who's also done that? Google. Google is not competing with Microsoft on the turf that Microsoft's always had and controlled and owned. Why? It doesn't matter as much as it did before. Because of all the methods to do the applications, whether it be cloud-based or whatever, that you can do with either an old XP box that's barely working or a thin Wise terminal or the like or whatever, you don't need to worry about the desktop. And all of the application options that you have now that you didn't have before, you know, there are choices. But the choices don't necessarily involve, I'm not going to get a desktop, I'm not going to get a server. Okay? So whereas before we simply had to say, well, okay, how many desktops are we going to buy? Because we haven't bought new ones in 3 years, so we need blah, blah, blah. Now it can be, okay, what business are we actually going to try to accomplish? What tasks are we going to try to do? So if we have a company that's starting off with 20 people, we need to buy 20 PCs. Well, no, because 10 of them are going to work from home and they have home computers. We'll just let them connect remotely and they can use it, you know, using a remote connection. So there'll just be one server that's servicing all those connections. Or we don't need a server at all because we're just going to use Google Apps. So there's really no server, there's no central office even. So these choices, and they're driving Microsoft nuts. Absolutely freaking nuts. Their sales are good. Their numbers are good. Their stock, not so much. How much attention they gather when they speak, not so much. And truly, I'm really interested in seeing what's going to happen with Connect. I don't have it. I'm not going to buy it. I have no, you know, if you build a robot vacuum cleaner, it will turn on its master. That's what robots do. Everybody knows that. But I'm curious as to how Microsoft will deal with this issue of external or independent developers want to develop their own applications. That's one of the reasons why Apple is so successful with the iPhone. That's one of the reasons why the Droids are so successful. Microsoft has an opportunity where they have no competition. They have a defined need. People are finding cool applications. This is something that Bill Gates 15 years ago would have been jumping on so quickly. And the interesting thing is whether or not Steve Ballmer's Microsoft in 2011 will do the same thing. In my opinion, if they don't, that tells me that the depth of the cultural change at Microsoft. Okay? So, what's that? Yeah, absolutely. And it's the same thing with IBM. You know, I remember, because I'm old, when I was the IT director for Cleveland Heights, and this would have been back in the early 80s, we had a digital equipment setup, 3 DEC minis. Yes, I'm old. The rest of you can ask your parents. And IBM wanted to come in and talk to us about switching over to IBM. 8 people came from IBM to talk to me, who was like 24-year-old IT director, surrounded by 8 suits from IBM. One sold the server. Well, the computer. We didn't know it was a server. One sold monitors. One sold supplies. One sold software. One sold training. Okay? Every one of them was an IBM employee. At the end of the day, all checks would be made out to IBM. Microsoft did it a very different way. Microsoft, for most cases, for the customer the size of the city, wouldn't have gone. At best, you would have somebody, I'm here to sell you hardware, I'm from Dell. I'm here to sell you software, Microsoft. I'm here to sell you training, DeVore. I'm here to sell you development, Acme Developers. I'm here to sell you supplies, etc., etc., etc. Totally different companies, totally different checks. Now, it's even going further off the beaten path. We sign up for the solution online. Nobody visits. Okay, that's going to be weird. So, Microsoft has some real head scratching to do as far as who they want to be and how they want to be it. And to be sure, we are a Microsoft partner. We don't recommend Microsoft solutions in terms of let's go out and buy new software if that's not the right solution. And actually I'm having a discussion with some people over at Microsoft that started yesterday about what a pain in the butt they are on some of these solutions. The solution's fine. It's getting it out of them that's challenging. Because on the one side of the fence, they're really there for the Fortune 500, Fortune 100, for the large companies, the volume, all that. And for the way other extreme, the onesie-twosies, they're there for that. But that middle of the road part, the company that needs 20, 100 PCs, systems, that's where Microsoft hasn't quite figured out yet where they're at.